What's up, everybody? Derek Anderson here, the DA, here with yet another box office breakdown, the scoreboard of the film industry. This is where we go over who's hot, who's not, the winners and the losers. We also look at the week that passed along with the week to come. And yep, we predicted it last week. The Batman was going to stay on top, even though a couple of horror films did enter the mix. Nothing that we are too surprised at. Horror is kind of a very niche audience, and even if you bring out a couple of big heavy hitters, wide release, it's not going to really touch a film like The Batman that's doing great. It's in its third weekend. Maybe down the line, fifth, sixth weekend, maybe something might have jumped off, but yeah, we expected The Batman to stay on top. So yeah, let's go ahead and just read through this real quick. It says Batman will spend its third weekend at the top of the box office, but the rest of the top 10 should be shaken up this weekend with a slew of smallish newcomers entering into the arena. Horror audiences have multiple options with the wide releases of X and Umma and the limited releases of The Outfit and Alice. Both have some buzz. So I did get a chance to see X, fantastic film. If you're a horror fan, you will absolutely love it. Go ahead and check out my review. It's right there. I'll pin it up here. As far as Umma, I haven't had an opportunity to see that yet, but I will eventually because I am interested in that film, and then I'll have a review out for that. But the other two films I have heard some very good buzz on. The Outfit and Alice, I've heard a lot of good things about that, so I'm looking forward to checking those films out. But the one film that kind of maybe flew under the radar, not so much to me, I know I didn't talk about it, but I did expect it to do a little bit better, and this particular article really didn't jump into that. And that's this movie right here, Jujustu Kaisen 0, the movie. So a lot of people may wonder, hey, what is this? It's an anime movie. It comes from Japan. It's a foreign film. And a lot of people probably didn't know what it would do. But as you can see right here, domestically, it just dropped last weekend, domestic grosses of $17,698,000. That's pretty impressive. One of the things I think folks don't realize when it comes to anime is that anime has been around for a very, very long time. We had anime when I was growing up. We had our shows that came on like Voltron, Battle of the Planets. We had Robotech. As I grew up, we got movies like Ghost in the Shell, Gundam, Battle Angel. We had a lot of anime going back in the day. And it's always interesting how anime has developed over the years to become more and more popular, it seems like, with each passing year. Right now, we know that manga is absolutely destroying traditional American comics. And one of the reasons I think for that is because Japanese comics and manga and animation, they're really not affected by what's going on in this country. Like in this country, our animation, like in our comic books, Marvel, DC, just kind of entertainment in general, is really affected by the social climates, the social politics that are going on in this country. They try to make things that are like very centered on politics and culture and things of that nature. And not to say that that doesn't happen in Japanese manga and Japanese anime, but they really push story first. They really push, hey, we're gonna put this product out here, and I'm gonna do a video on this to kind of break that down. They push the story first. They push characters first, and so these stories become universal. So even though it's taking place in a foreign country, we can appreciate what's happening because these are just universal stories that doesn't require some kind of cultural, like, okay, what's going on culturally so I can understand this story. No, it's just, hey, here's a story. This is what's going on. Enjoy it for what it is. And so you're going to continue to say anime like Jujustu Kaisen continue to blossom and flourish in this country because, folks are just looking for stories, nothing to do with politics, nothing to do with some type of social agenda. It's just like, hey, we're just here to tell a story. If you derive some sort of social commentary out of this, that's on you. That's great. Nothing wrong with that. But that's not what we're doing. We're just here telling stories. And so you're going to continue to see movies like this kind of start to, you know, take off a little bit. So it's going to be interesting to watch movies like Jujustu Kaisen and see how they do internationally, you know, when they come over here versus some of the films that are coming out. Because we're going to see in a second, like, you know, even with the horror genre being a strong genre, the horror movies didn't really do that well in the box office. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and just take a look at that so we can go over the numbers. All right, and here we are with the top 10 for the weekend. Okay, Batman, 36.8 million, another solid weekend for the Bat. We got Jujustu Kaisen coming in second place with 14.8 million. Uncharted with 8 million, still hanging in there, still making some good money. Then you see X at 4.4 million in its debut weekend. Kind of surprising. I thought it would do a little bit better, but nevertheless, still solid. I bet for its budget, and it hasn't been disclosed what the budget is, but I bet for its budget, it's doing pretty good right now. And then Dog at a $4 million weekend, solid. Okay, and then the second half, we got Spider-Man No Way Home, 3.2 million. Think about this. This movie has been out since December. This movie actually has dropped on home video. You can go and buy that movie right now on home video, and it's still doing $3.2 million in theaters. People like going to the theaters to watch this film. Then we have Death on the Nile, 1.7 million. You got The Outfit, Kashmir Files, and Sing 2 rounding out the top 10, each with about a 1.5 apiece. So yeah, another solid weekend for the box office. I don't know if this is one of the better weekends, but there's certainly a good little mix, and a lot of people are going back to the theaters, and we're going to see that just in a second when we look at the drops, the overall drops. So let's check that out. So here go the overall drop for the week over week numbers, and you can see once again Batman. We said it was going to be around a 30 or 40% drop, somewhere in there. That was my prediction. A little bit over that with a 44% drop, but still very good. And you can see the weekend or the worldwide box office sitting at 598. We said it would kind of get close to the $600 million mark, and that's there. We still don't even have the numbers from China. China debuted, and we don't know what those numbers are quite yet. So I think we're in good shape with that. Uncharted sitting at 8 million. It had a 13% drop week over week, and now it's sitting at $337 million worldwide. Dog still chugging along, another 4 million in the bank at a 21% drop. It's sitting at 62 million. Spider-Man No Way Home, 3.2 million with a 21% drop. Now it's at $1.88 billion. Very impressive. And then Death on the Nile, a $1.7 million take, and you're looking at $130 million in the worldwide box office, 29% down. I think it might have maybe one more weekend in the theaters, but I think after that, with some of the stuff that's going to be coming out, Death on the Nile is going to kind of get pushed out of the way in the place of those things. So not much to look at in terms of the make it or break it numbers. We kind of already knew where these films were going to be. And, you know, as you can see, Batman, Uncharted, and Dog have already crossed their numbers. And then Death on the Nile at 130 million. Yeah, we're not sure where that one is going to finally end up, but it looks like ultimately it's not going to make up that last $100 million to become profitable, so it will lose money. So yeah, that was it. Now I do want to jump back to the discussion that we were having in regards to what's coming up next week. So all right, so next week, here's what we got. Everything, everywhere, all at once. It's going to get a limited release, okay? Like the movie actually debuts here on April 8th. It's a wide release. So right now it's just going to be a limited release. You know, maybe a few hundred theaters just to kind of get some buzz going. It stars Michelle Yeoh. It's going to have Jamie Lee Curtis in it, I believe. And it's an A24 movie, so that tells me that it's probably going to be very good. It's going to get some like review buzz, maybe even some Oscar buzz. We don't know. It involves the multiverse. Sounds like a very interesting movie, so I'm looking forward to that. The other film that's coming out next week, we got 7 Days. Looks like it's an Indian film. That one's a wide release. And then The Lost City. Now, The Lost City is a big film, right? It's got Sandra Bullock, it's got Channing Tatum, it's got Brad Pitt in it, I believe. I saw Daniel Radcliffe. all-star cast, right? All-star cast. So a lot of people are going to say, hey, you know, like the same group of people that were watching Uncharted maybe for the second and third time are going to go check this out, because you got a comedy, you got an adventure. It looks like it might be a romance or something. Kind of feels like that Romancing the Stone type film. It's a writer that's going off on an adventure with like a real life adventurer, except, you know, he's not really an adventurer. He's like a cover model. So that looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of comedy. It's been very serious, you know, since before Batman came out. You're getting horror films, you're getting a lot of dramas, you're not getting comedy. So this film is probably going to do very well for folks who just want to get out, lose themselves in a comedy and have a great time. But the film that I'm going to discuss next is Morbius. Let's talk about this one. So early predictions right now, it's kind of hard to say. Morbius should be a hit. Should do well the week it comes out. So we got 2 weeks left. Nothing really in its way. You can see from previously, you know, I'm not sure how the Lost City is going to do. If it does great with a lot of buzz, it might interfere with Morbius. But here's the thing that you got to be careful of. I'm going to go ahead and go to this website right here. This website is Box Office Pro, and it's talking about the long-range box office forecast for Morbius. Now, this came out, you know, a few weeks back, but I think it's worth discussing some of the pros and cons that Morbius has, because I've also discussed some of this. So here's a couple of the pros that it has. Number one, it's the Marvel Association, right? Obvious, you know, it has, you know, it's connected in with Marvel. It's, you know, on the trailers, you're seeing Marvel. It has shots of Spider-Man's, you know, little, you know, figure in the background on some walls. So it has that. And then it's also portraying, as it says here, Michael Keaton. You know, this had Michael Keaton, who's Adrian Toomes in the Sony Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you will. He appeared in Spider-Man Homecoming. So yeah, I think that connection is going to pay some kind of dividends. And then it also says it'll be exclusive to theaters on its release. You know, so they're not doing any day and date release type deal. They're just saying, hey, straight to theaters. You want to watch this movie, you got to go into the theaters. Jared Leto, obviously, who played the Joker in the Suicide Squad films and in Zack Snyder's Justice League, you know, he has some star presence that could help for people that are not familiar with the character, it says. And then it also mentions that March has very high profile to offer outside of the Lost City. And then Batman is going to be entering its 5th weekend. Now to the cons. And here's the things that I've been pointing out. Number one, it's lukewarm. The social tracking, like the way people feel about Morbius so far, has been very, very lukewarm. Very, very lukewarm. No excitement. People aren't really like talking about this movie. Unlike Venom, you know, Venom was talked about a whole lot. People were hyped for it. The trailers were great. The trailers for Morbius have just been underwhelming. I'm not sure if that's something they expected, but it just has been severely underwhelming for those particular trailers. You know, and Venom was the exact opposite. Like Venom, if anything, you know, made you giggle, made you laugh, you know, kind of got that teen crowd, you know, a little bit pumped up, you know, early 20s, a little bit pumped up, like, okay, I'm gonna go see this movie. This looks like it's gonna be a lot of fun. So far, this movie is very like dour and serious. And if that's where they're going for with the comic book film in their first release, I don't know if they're gonna pull it off, you know. It also says that the reviews will be critical for this release, as it's sandwiched between two far more prolific comic book films, and it's talking about Batman and Doctor Strange. Now, I don't know if Doctor Strange is going to have any real impact on this film. You know, people may have like, oh, well, you know, I'm saving my money in my pocket. So I don't know if that's going to happen. Like Batman, yeah, you know, Batman is going to still be out by the time this film releases. So it may, you know, cut into its box office a little bit. But the more important ones are the films that are coming directly after it. Because you're going to have Ambulance, you're going to have Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I think those are the two biggest movies that are going to cut into it. And then Fantastic Beasts is coming out 2 weeks after. I think that's going to have some impact, but not as much as Ambulance and Sonic 2. Those two films are going to be, you know, people are anticipating those two movies heavily, especially Sonic 2. and I think that one's going to cut into it. So, you know, this little article kind of goes on to talk about, you know, what the expectations are. Now, it says here, you know, it's a 3-day opening, high, low range, and then the domestic total. I think this may be, the domestic total spot may be worldwide, because I can't see this thing being predicted to do $130 million domestically in its opening weekend. No chance. Batman didn't even do that. But you got Morbius over here at 60 million. I think 60 million is reasonable, but I don't know if it's going to do that. Like, I'm really thinking that this is probably going to be, you know, somewhere in the range of, you know, 40 to 50. So I think this $40 million is probably dead on accurate. Maybe it slips up to $50 million opening week. That's what I'm thinking Morbius is going to do. And again, it's just based on how this film has been portrayed. You know, it's very, very serious. It's dour. It doesn't seem to have a lot of fun with itself. And I think when it comes to movies like this, you gotta have fun. You gotta have just, you know, go out there and have fun. Now, one thing that they should have done that I still feel strongly about is they should have dropped it back closer to Spider-Man No Way Home. They had it released initially in January. That was the perfect spot for it, to be quite honest with you. You know, and that Spider-Man No Way Home has just been chugging out number after number. To connect this film to that film while it was still in theaters and on a high run would have been perfect. Now they're dropping it in theaters when Spider-Man No Way Home is on its way out. You know, it'll probably be done by the time it gets to, you know, April 1st. And it's going up against other films that are definitely huge movies. Ambulance, Sonic 2, Batman still in theaters. I think that's going to be a negative for this film, but we'll see what happens. So anyway, that'll do it for the box office breakdown. Tell me what you think about my Morbius predictions. Am I close? Do you think it's going to be higher or lower? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, I definitely want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.